Hi everyone, welcome to an exciting series where we'll cover the life cycle on building an Alexa skill. I recommend watching the videos for each step and then applying the hands-on exercises in the videos before moving on to the next video in the sequence. You'll have the best practices by the end of this series with an engaging Alexa skill in store. You can also connect with me on Twitter and LinkedIn, and I'd love to hear your feedback on these videos. Okay, let's begin. Today what we are going to focus on is the testing and certification. So how to test what we already built, what's the certification process, and lots of tips of how to get your skills certified faster. So can we go through the certification process, what that means?
Yep, so it's pretty simple. When a developer finishes building the skills in the development portal, they submit the skill through the development portal itself. It'll go through a certification process that we handle. Once it goes through certification, you can either, if there's an issue that we find in your skill itself, we would provide you with an email feedback and request you to fix the issue. And if it doesn't, then it passed the certification, it will actually immediately go live into the store itself. So whichever store you select it with, if you put it onto the .com.au store, it will publish in that .com.au store. And if you want to do it on multi-locales, and then you'll just go into all the different stores that's available.
So the skill we built in previous section was a vacation countdown. So it tries to excite you for an upcoming vacation. If you guys remember, in step 2 we came up with a few storyboards. This is the typical first time storyboard. So if I want to go through the publishing phase, first I'll go through all of the storyboards. I test them one by one and make sure that it's doing what I was expecting it to do. So how can we test this skill? Going to my developer console, and at the top you can see a test section. So we can start typing. So open vacation countdown.
Welcome back. It looks like there are 148 days until your vacation.
Back, it looks like there are 148 days until your vacation. So we have this test. You can see this distribution at the top. So what I've done is I've pre-filled some of this information to make this recording more quick. So it's going to ask you lots of questions. So the first one is, what's the public name that you want to provide for your skill? And it's what people are going to see here. So that's the public name of your skill. And it's very important for that to be something that is relevant to your skill.
Obviously, one of the main concerns through certification is, it has to be, it's not encroaching to a brand or a IP, right? So, you can't, if you're going to build a skill for Woolies, right, you're going to make sure that you have approval from Woolies that you can actually use their name itself. Right, so that's so be mindful of what public name you use. Yeah. Right, it has to be obviously unique to your skill itself, but also be mindful that it's not encroaching to a brand or an IP that it's out there.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a very good point. And then we have one sentence description. So the first thing people see when they go to the skill store, they see an icon, the name of it, but then they want to see what it does. And I think this is very important. Like what I typed in here is, this skill will do a countdown till your vacation day to maximize your joy. So I think it's pretty much what my skill does. It's a countdown, it's about vacation, and if I read it, it's enough information to figure out what it does.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the one sentence that all customers will actually look at when they view the skill itself. So, it has to be short and to the point, right? So that they actually know what they're going to enable the skill for. I think it's quite important that be mindful of what you use, all right, what you write up in your first sentence, obviously, because it's it can attract a customer or it might not, right? Just depending on what you put in there. So just be mindful of that.
Yeah. So and then we have detailed descriptions.
This is where a customer would go in there and actually get a better understanding of how they use a skill, what the skill actually does, what are the different scenarios you can use a skill for, right? So it's quite obviously important, especially this is basically the instructions for the customer itself, right? So if the customer needs some help in using the skill itself, this is the best place to put it.
Exactly. And what's new is usually if you have like different versions for the skill, so you can provide what is new in these specific versions.
So when you have a new feature, when you have a new product or new news update, then that's the best place to put in there so that it'll come up onto your skill itself and the customer will actually see what is actually new on the new version that you've submitted.
Exactly. And then we have example phrases. Typically, people should be providing
two up to three.
Yeah,
3 phrases. It'll be great it's for a customer to be, familiar with how would they invoke the skill itself and how would they use the skill. Opening vacation countdown was obviously an obvious one, but anything that can help in how you want the customer to interact with the skill, right, as a first step. Right, and then the next step should be where the skill will teach the customer how to use it in the next one, asking for a date for the vacation itself, or if you already have a vacation, giving the answers itself. But this example phrases is is an introduction to the customer to let them know how they should interact with the skill.
Exactly, and like if we look at the story itself, so if I go to Call of Duty, I can see these sample phrases at the top. So this is how they would see it.
Absolutely.
And start interacting with it. So let's go back and see what else we have. So definitely you need an icon.
Yes, all important.
And it's very important because I glance at the icon, it might be eye-catching, and I just get curious to start interacting with that skill. So I think it's very important. If you are a brand, you probably want to use your brand typical image that people know about to relate to it, or if it is a skill about any other thing, it's very important to be mindful of what we place here.
Absolutely, it's like the 2 most important things for your skill to be recognized, right? An easy to remember invocation name so that they can call up the skill, and the second thing is an icon that you'll remember, right? So that you can search for it. Once you have a good icon, then it's catching. When a customer browses through the skill store, it will catch their eye, and they will look into the skill itself. So it's important for it in terms of engagement and and visibility for a customer.
You can definitely use any software to design it yourself, so it doesn't matter. It just have to fit in this spec that is provided here. So this is the pixel size, and you have to have 2 different size to select between these 2. So what our team did is they provided these tools, so you can click on this, click here, and it opens an icon builder. So it's up to you. If it is something simple, if you want something quick, you can just use this one to make your life easier. If you want something more complex and more features, you can choose any other type of softwares. There are heaps of icons that you can choose here, but you can search them based on the category. So let me see what we have here. So there's so many things that I can choose, but probably I need something which is related to timer or clock, date and time. So these are all of the options that I have. Probably I go with this one. So I prefer something solid. You can just play with the colors and see what you would like the most. I go with this one. Yeah. And then you can play with some other features as well. So what we have here, so you can give it a shadow, then you press the download. So when you download it, it just, let me go back to my desktop. So when you download it, it should be my desktop. So it just provides a folder, a zip folder, and I can just unzip that one. And you can see both of the icons with the size of our interest. So that's what I did. I just clicked and then browsed through the files and selected here. So that's all I needed to do to get these icons available. So the next important thing is the category. So we have so many skills in the store, and
Yes.
it's hard for people to discover them.
Yep.
So we have a few ways to help people to find it. One of them is the category, and if we open this one, there's so many different categories that they can choose from.
Absolutely, and it's essential that you select one that is, towards the what you want to, what your skill actually does, right? So, if it's a fitness skill, then put it into the fitness category. If it's a game skill, put it into a games category itself. It really helps with a customer to search for your skill in specific categories itself. And if you believe that your skill falls into multiple categories, then use the most common category for it. That'll be the best suggestions for you, right? So that if it's a game, but it's also a fitness skill itself, then depends on how you want to what customer base you want to focus on. That's where the categories that you should put into.
So it's pretty important. So for this one, I could go through a few one of them, but I think it's pretty much a calendar, a reminder. And the next one is keywords. So the suggestion is add as many keywords that is relevant to your skill.
Absolutely. So this is directly helps you in the search. In your search function itself, when you actually search for a skill, it will help you with going through the keywords itself. So it's like anything when you do in the search engine itself, when you go into Google and searching for something, right, you look for keywords, and it's the same thing, right? The keywords really help in, discovery of your skills itself, right? So anything that is anything related to your skill itself, right, you should put it in there in the keywords, and it will really help you in the discovery, especially in the skill store.
So for this specific skill, I just added a few that I think was relevant, like it's about vacation, dates, joy, countdown. So all of these are the things that I found relevant for my skill. And it's up to 30
words. Yep.
Yeah, so it's a lot. Add as much as you
can. Absolutely. They can put in there, you can, beside vacation, you can put in holidays, breaks, things like that, which is related to it, and it will really help in search.
And we have these two other URLs that like privacy policy.
Yep. So these are more into unique skills where you have where you create a skill where you ask for account linking issues or account linking properties, asking for usernames, or if you're using a service like a smart home service, right, you need to provide privacy policy in terms of use. This is just to explain to the customer that this is how you will handle their details if you request details from them, and also how you should be using the skills itself, right, how the skills will be used. So it's unique. Obviously, if it's just a vacation skill, you probably won't need to add anything in there, but it's unique. It's essential that you put in a privacy policy and the terms of use if you are going to be requesting any information from our customer.
Exactly. So when we are done with this page, we just press save and continue, and it lands in the next page to ask more questions. So the first one I can see here, so it's all about privacy and compliances. So it's asking me if this skill is just earning any real money, and my skill is not. So I just press no.
Yep. Basically, it's skills where if there is money exchange, like if your skill is used to book an Uber or purchase food ordering process, which money might be exchanged in that process, then you need to say yes to that.
Yeah. And the next one is if you're collecting users' personal information. For this skill, I didn't ask for any information, but it's very important. If you're collecting it, we need to know.
Yep, we're very sensitive about our personal information, so it's essential for you to be transparent in providing the information to your customer itself if you are going to collect any personal information.
Exactly. And for children as well, like if it is targeting children under the age of 13, we need to definitely specify it.
Yep, and if you want your skill to be under the kids category, you need to have making sure that it's targeting for younger kids, right? It's good for you to have a flag on it. What this do is, giving our customer and our parents to be aware that this is a safe skill for the kids, right? And that's why it's there.
Yeah, exactly. And the last one is if it is containing advertising. Again, for this skill, I didn't have any advertising.
Yep. So this is again, is to give our customers a visibility if there's going to be ads involved in the skill itself, and how you're gonna how is the advertisement going to be presented in the skill itself, right? So it's just give transparency for the customers.
Yeah, exactly. And like this checkbox is about export compliance. You can just read through that. I'm going to check that. And this is testing instructions. So this is not going to be provided in the store itself. It's just for our Alexa team.
So this is essential for the certification process. If you want any special notes that you want how the skills could be certified, how the skills is tested in certain scenarios, and is also if your skill requires account linking, then please provide your test accounts, right, for it to be tested during certification. If test accounts are not provided, then the skill will be rejected anyway. So, and that will give you, you'll need to resubmit the skill and so forth. So it's best, best form is to enter your test account details in the test instructions when you first submit the skill.
Yeah, and I'm pretty much done with this page. So let's save and continue and see what's next. So this one is about availability. So what we see here is two options. The first one is public, so most of us wants to go to public. This is how it lands into the store. But we are in the testing process of our skill. What I typically recommend skill builders is before going public, do a beta test.
Yep.
You can ask your friends, family, colleagues, or anyone from your user base to start testing your skill. Make sure that it meets their expectations. So I highly recommend to go through that before going to public. To do that, you need to go to the section for the beta test. And here you can see lots of information. So this is the email for like your administrative account. And then here you can add as many testers as you want. Like this is tester1@gmail.com. So you just add as many as you like, and then you press add. What happens here is the person that owns these accounts will receive an email with a link to go and enable the skill.
Yeah, absolutely. It really helps, to get some feedback, from real user feedback in regards to how your skill works itself, right? And if you've created any code before, you know that you never know what's going to happen when it goes live. So it's great. It's a great recommendation to really beta test your skill prior to going live.
Exactly. So that's one option that you can go through. But let's say I've done it. I send the information to my to the people of my interest, and then I can end the test. When I end the test, the link is no longer working, and then I make it available publicly. So I press the public. This time I really want to go live. And you can see one other option here, which you can choose which countries this skill should be available. So for most of the skill, it's all of the countries. So let's select the all countries and save and continue and see what happens next. Cool. So it's going through some validation. So we didn't have it before last year.
No. So this is a new function that we provided. It will check a number of things, but what we found was there was some common issues where skills get submitted and it fails on the first go. And what we're trying to do is push that kind of validation right in the front and do some automated validation for it, right? So it'll give the developer a quick overview feedback into some of the quick fixes they can do before they actually do a full certification in the skill.
Exactly. And the next one is the functional test. So it takes a few minutes. It does some additional automation testing and provides you with some feedback. And if everything goes well, like we have this green tick, so that's a good sign. And then we have the last page, which is the submission. And all I say is a green tick and submit for review. So that's the last phase. Like if I press that, that's where it comes to your team.
Yep, that's right. So once you submit for review, the skill will be into our queue, and then you'll go through a full certification process. And it'll go through both automation certification and also manual certification, just to test the skill itself to make sure that it's working and is right for our customer. Our premise is to make sure it's a great skill for our customer. So we want to make sure that the skill works and it works well for our customer itself, right? And whatever you put in your description, we want to make sure that whatever you say in the skill should work as it says on the skill description itself. So that is, that's why it's important to give a good description and also, ensuring that you've done all your tests prior to submission.
Exactly. And if you just receive an email with like it wasn't get approved and these are the things that you have to fix, don't get discouraged. I run lots of workshops, and some people build lots of skills, and still when they go through the process, because that specific skill is doing things differently or falls in a different category, they receive this email. So it might be a few back and forth, and it's totally fine. Just apply whatever changes that is requested from you, and you'll get to the store at some point.
Absolutely.
And what's the average time that from the time that they press this button till it gets available in the store?
It should come in, within a week, right?
Within a week.
Yeah.
Okay, cool, awesome. So after we submit it, it's available in the store, and like people would be able to go there and enable the skill.
So here's a few key points for you to look at when we go through certification, and common failures that we find during certification. So one is invocation name. Making sure that your invocation name is clear and there's no infringement to brand or an IP product, right? And that's again the same thing in terms of implied sponsorship on the skills itself, right? So make sure of that. In custom intents and custom example phrases, again, it's to ensure that your skill is functionally working. And with your example phrases, we recommend at least 3 example phrases when you submit a skill itself. So please make sure that your example phrases work before your submission itself, right? This is the 3 phrases that your customers will actually use, right, first time. So make sure that it works. Skill metadata is basically the description and the details that you put into your skill, right? This is what the customer will look at in understanding what it does, how it's used. So make sure that obviously there's no spelling mistakes, and then it makes sense for our customers itself, right? So it's like an instruction for the customer. And of course, example phrases, right? So making sure that you enter at least 1, but we recommend 3 example phrases.
The next one, so this is about policy issues.
Yeah, so this is, it's just to reiterate what we look at in terms of, especially with invocation name. We look at, if there's no infringement to intellectual property or entity itself, right? We recommend not to use one-word invocation unless it's unique to your brand, right? And invocation name shouldn't be a place or a person's name, right? So this is common practice that we recommend. So be mindful of it when you actually select invocation name. And obviously that name, the invocation name, is what defines your skills itself, because that's what the customer will use to actually invoke the skill, right? So just be mindful of what you use. And same as with when you actually build your skill itself, make sure that there is no there's no infringement to intellectual properties or trademark or third party, right? So making sure that if you are going to mention someone's brand or your skill is For example, you want to create a trivia skill on Disney, and you don't have, you're not working for Disney, then you need to make sure that you list it out that it's an unofficial skill itself, right? To make sure that you're not what we want to do is basically ensure that our customer know that the skill is built for, it's not built by the company itself, or if it is, then it's uniquely shown that it's built by Disney or built by Huggies, right? So we want to make sure that our customer there's transparency in regards to who owns the skills and who built the skill.
Yeah, very good. And this is for the functional issues.
Yep, so in terms of functional issues, this is some of the key things that we want to look at when you actually build your skills and when you submit, right? A help prompt is it's a great prompt that it's already a default intent in your skills itself, and you want to make sure that you use that, right? That you have something that responds to it. And because when a customer is trying to use your skill itself and they don't know what to do, they would say, Alexa, help. Right, and so just to make sure that you have something created for the help prompt itself, we've seen multiple times where a skill is created, but there's no help prompt, right? Which is a main issue for our customer.
Yeah, and especially if you want to make a good experience, if they're saying help, depends on where they are in the experience. You can provide something customized for that specific situation. Like if it's ordering a pizza, I'm halfway through and I say help, you can say what they already have selected and what they can do next. If they say help in the beginning of the same skill, you can just say what are the next steps, which is not necessarily a functional issue for the certification, but that's a good practice.
Absolutely. And session management itself, right? So it's great for them to ensure that the skill is an open session. You have it's a conversation, right? When you actually use Alexa itself, you speak to Alexa and you wait for a response, and then you continue with the conversation itself. So making sure that once you've asked for a question or provided an answer, right, your session is closed. Or if you expect a response, then your session should be open itself. So be mindful of that. And that, it gives the customer a good understanding of how the actual skill works. And we touched this base on skill titles and invocation name. So again, be mindful of what the skill title is. The skill title will be what is shown in the Alexa companion app, the name of the title. The skill title and invocation name can be different, right? So just make sure that, again, it reflects on the skill and what it does. Example phrases, and again, making sure that, the example phrases that you put in there actually works on your skill itself. The number of times I've seen where, people have submitted a skill and, you might be able to invoke the skill, but none of the example phrases work. Right, so be mindful of that and making sure that it actually works itself, and that'll be the key things that you will want to test, prior to actually submitting the skill itself.
Yeah, exactly, because it's available for public. That's a very bad first impression that we are providing some sample utterances, and even those wouldn't work.
Absolutely, right. So if a customer opens your skills and they can't even use example phrases, then that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Right. The customer is not going to look for how they're going to interact with the skill. They're just going to say the skill doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So be mindful of that. And this is pretty common sense, but making sure that your skill launches consistently. Making sure your endpoint is stable itself. It's a great segue to the beta testing. Right. It's the best thing to share it with some people and get them to test it a number of times, making sure that that your skill is stable, right? And that's why you use the beta test. It's a great way for you to test your endpoint and also your skill stability.
Exactly.
And device discovery. This is mainly for smart home skills, right? Making sure that if you are submitting a smart home skill itself, right, that in certification, making sure that in the test instructions, you mention what kind of devices will be available for it to be tested, and the account details for for you to link to those devices itself, right? So it's key testing features that we need to make sure that if your skill is going to interact with a device, right, you need to make sure that we can test that during certification process. And if it's a flash briefing skill, making sure your feed is up and running, and making sure that it's stable as well, right? The worst thing you can do is you invoke the skill and it's not performing as it should be. Exit, stop, and cancel. It's one of the few ways that a customer will stop, to engage Alexa to stop the skill itself. So making sure that you can actually exit from the skill by using exit, stop, and cancel is essential. And you don't want to have a bad experience as the customer try to exit from your skill itself, right? Or you're not letting the customer exit from the skill. So it's really good for a good customer experience for you to provide that.
Exactly, and it depends on the context of the skill as well. Like in the sample of ordering a pizza, if I say cancel, I might mean just to cancel the order, not
Absolutely.
stopping the skill.
Yeah.
If I say stop, means just exit the skill.
For sure. And the last one is account linking, right? Making sure that if you are going to submit a skill where you need a customer to enter some kind of username and password, that you provide a test credentials for the certification process.
So these are the links that you guys can have a look. The last one is all of the policies.
Yep, all the policy. We talk about, what do you say, child skill, what skill for kids, policy in regards to, IP infringements and so forth. So it's a great thing for you to have a look at and review prior for you to, submitting the skill itself. So you're aware of things that you can and cannot do for your skills itself.
Thank you guys for joining this session. Thank you, Meng, for sharing all
Nice.
of this information with the audience. Have a good one and enjoy skill building. Thank you.
See ya.
See you.